a baby without an epidural. Do you know how traumatizing that is? It's very traumatizing. Hey beautifuls, welcome back to my crazy, messy, real beautiful life. Today is a good one because I'm going to share with you the story of how baby Grinch was born. It was horrific. I'm telling you, horrific. I am still traumatized till this day. But before we start, I want to share with you the name of my baby Grinch. I probably slipped a few times between all these vlogs his name, but I wanted to officially announce his name is Kobe. We decided to name him Kobe after the great Kobe Bryant. My husband is a huge Kobe Bryant fan. So in 2020, whenever the world turned upside down, I think it started with his passing and then the whole pandemic. But my husband turned to me and said, if we ever have a baby boy, we are going to name him Kobe. And I was like, I agree, because I love and respect Kobe's passion and his hustle. He is such a legend, not just because of his basketball skills, but because of his Mamba mentality. So we decided to name Kobe, not in hopes that he will be great and legendary like Kobe Bryant, but hoping that whatever he does in life, he applies the Mamba mentality passion to it. That's all that we hope for him. But yeah, anyways, that's his name, Kobe. And I want to share with you my crazy birth story. I'm sure everyone has their own crazy birth story, but this is mine. And before I start, I just want to say that I think nobody really talks about their birth story or postpartum healing, because I think it would scare other women into giving birth. But I will tell you guys, after all of that traumatic experience, it is definitely worth it, because my baby boy Kobe is just so precious. So to start, I am who I am, so I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I wanted to get my lashes done and my nails done and my toes done before I went into labor. So I think on that Monday, I got my lashes done, and on Wednesday, I got my nails and my toes done. And I remember sitting in my car after I got my nails and toes done, around like 5, 6-ish, and I was like looking at my belly, and I was like, okay, Kobe, mom got her lashes and her nails and her toes done, so if you decide to come, that's totally okay. Oh, and keep in mind, at this point, I was like 37 weeks and like 2 days. So right at the mark where it was considered safe to have a baby, because the mark is at 37 weeks. But I looked at my belly and I told him that. And sure enough, after I said that, I drove to Hobby Lobby down the street from where I was at, and I was walking around. I remember I was looking at Halloween and fall decorations, because I knew he would come sometime, and I wanted to get the house ready for fall and Halloween. I knew that if I gave birth, I wouldn't have time to buy these decorations, so I was gonna buy them beforehand and maybe decorate after I gave birth. But I went into Hobby Lobby and I started feeling like weird stomach cramps that would go away every like 30 minutes. And I remember reading about Braxton Hicks. This is like my first baby, so I really don't know the difference between Braxton Hicks and contractions, but I know that Braxton Hicks are like shorter and they're like false labor contractions. And so I remember feeling those little stomach cramps and muscle aches in the belly area, and I'm thinking, oh, it's probably just Braxton Hicks. So I walk around Hobby Lobby and the Braxton Hicks gets closer and closer and closer together. They're not 30 minutes apart. And so I'm like, you know what, let me just go pay for my items and let me just drive to the hospital nearby. So I called my husband, who is currently at work, and I drove to the hospital. I got admitted to the labor and delivery emergency room, and they checked me out, and sure enough, they were like, hey, it's just postpartum, you're just 37 weeks, you're only 2 centimeters dilated. And I've been 2 centimeters dilated for like about a week and a half since that point. At my previous doctor appointment, I got checked. And so I'm like, yeah, it's just Braxton Hicks like I thought. And they gave me a brochure, and everything was good to go. My husband came all super worried. I'm like, it's just Braxton Hicks. It's perfectly fine. So I go home, he comes home from work that night, and everything was back to normal. And I was having these Braxton Hicks like every 20-30 minutes, but I remember trying to go to sleep around 1 a.m. and I was like, okay, it's really bothering me. It's really annoying, this Braxton Hicks contractions. So I'm just gonna try to sleep it off. So I fall asleep around 1 a.m. and I wake up around 3 a.m. kind of feeling more pain in the ab region. And I'm like, okay, it's just Braxton Hicks. It's perfectly fine. I can't sleep, so I'm just gonna like wake up. And I read on the internet that if you take a hot shower, maybe it'll go away. So that's what I did, but it still kept coming. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get up. I'm already awake. Let me just wash dishes, decorate for fall, Halloween a little bit, because I'm up and I can't sleep anyways. And at this point, thank goodness I downloaded the app to track your contractions. So I tracked them and they were like 15 minutes apart at this time, but I'm like thinking, it's just Braxton Hicks, it's perfectly fine. So yeah, going to the ER the day before kind of like messed with my head because I kept thinking everything was okay. And so I'm washing dishes, I decorate some stuff for fall, and by this time it was like 8 a.m. I start feeling contractions every like 5 minutes. So I call the ER and I told them what was going on, and they told me, hey, you can, you know, I see that you came in yesterday and it's just Braxton Hicks. You're just experiencing that. Maybe you should just stay home. And I'm like, but I feel like they're 5 minutes apart. They're like, well, the choice is up to you. We're not going to tell you to come in or not to come in, you know? And I hear stories of people coming in and getting sent home. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just wait it out a little bit. So I'm home and my husband wakes up around like 8:30 and I tell him that I'm having, you know, these Braxton Hicks or contractions. I'm not sure at this point what it is. And so we already have our hospital bags packed from a few days ago. Thank goodness I packed that, and thank goodness he packed his. So we were like, okay, if we need to go, we need to go. And I remember telling him that I wanted to eat a Big Mac and Chick-fil-A French fries before going into labor, because I know that once you get inside that hospital, they're not gonna feed you anything but ice chips. And it has been forever since I have ate. I think the last time I ate was like 9 or 8 p.m. the night before. So it's been like a good 12 hours. So he goes and gets me a Big Mac, and I like could barely, I'm at home, I could barely put like a piece in my mouth, and it just like hurts so bad. And at this point he's staring at me and he's like, I think that your contractions are less than 5 minutes apart. They look like they're about 3. And I'm like, uh-oh, this really must be contractions and not Braxton Hicks. And so we load everything in the car. We drive to the hospital. We get to the labor and delivery floor, and they check how dilated I am. And at this point, I am 6 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this baby is coming today. There's no turning back. Can't go home. Help. And so, yeah. And they checked like a few minutes later, and I was like 7 centimeters dilated and 8 centimeters dilated. And then I remember telling the nurse that I really want an epidural. I'm not going to sit there and try to be the hero. I really want this epidural. Like, that's the first thing that I told her. But, you know, I have to get checked in and everything verified. Even though I did pre-register with the hospital, they needed all these information. But like 5 different people came in and asked me the same questions, like my name, my date of birth, like all this stuff, like 5, 6 different times while I'm having contractions. And I kept apologizing to them, like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry if I'm being rude. Like, it just really hurts. And I'm looking at my husband like, answer their questions. But they kept coming to me to ask me like my name, date of birth, address, stuff like that, if I had insurance. And I'm like, just ask him. And so, yeah, after we like answer all those questions, got, you know, checked in, and they were trying to, and excuse my medical explanation, I'm not in that field, so some of this may be off, but they were trying to put an IV bag in me before they could give me an epidural. And so I was like, okay, I'm looking at this IV bag and it looks jumbled and filled from where I'm like down here looking up at it. And I'm like, okay, this bag needs to go in faster because I am like 7 or 8 centimeters dilated at this point. And if I don't get this bag in, I can't get an epidural. I'm sitting there calculating and I'm like, man, I'm not gonna get this epidural. But there was still hope because the nurses were telling me, don't worry, you can get one, Don't you let anyone tell you that you can't get one. You can totally get one after this bag goes in. And I'm like, okay, hurry up, bag. And so at this point, they checked again, and I was 9 centimeters dilated. And I'm like, man, I'm having this baby without an epidural. I already knew it. I knew it. But at this point, I was already in the hospital bed, in the hospital gown, and this baby is coming now. I remember the nurse telling me, because we got there around like 10 a.m. or 10:15 a.m. And she's like, you're going to have this baby before lunchtime. And I'm like, okay, lunchtime is like noon to most people. So I'm going to have this baby in about an hour and 45 minutes. And sure enough, he came at 12:04 p.m. Yep. But yeah, I was 9 centimeters, 10 centimeters dilated now at this point. I see this nurse call the little intercom, telling them to send the on-call doctor in case my doctor did not make it in time. Luckily, her office is across the street, so I see her running in, putting on her gown, putting on her cap, gloving up, like putting like shoe coverings on her shoe, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this baby is coming now. And so, yep. I went through labor. It only took a few minutes from, at that point, the pushing part. And my baby came out like a rocket ship, I'm telling you, like a shooting star. I remember seeing like slow motion of him like flying out. And yeah, I had my baby without an epidural. And I know most people are like, yeah, like that's so awesome. You had the baby without an epidural. But I'm like, I had the baby without an epidural. Do you know how traumatizing that is? It's very traumatizing. It was very, very painful. And I don't know if I want to have a baby without an epidural ever again. So we'll see how the second one goes when the time comes. But I am still traumatized. That whole experience was just, it went by so fast, but yet so slow, but so fast. And it was very painful. I know most people, like I said, are like, oh my goodness, you did it without an epidural. But you know, I was not trying to be a hero. I just wanted to have a baby pain-free. But you know, that did not happen. I felt everything. So yeah, that was my birth story. And as you can see, I am still worked up and traumatized over it. I remember every detail and it's embedded in my brain. So yeah, that's how baby Kobe was born to this world. But once they put him on top of me and I had skin-on-skin contact with him, obviously I forgot about all that pain, and they were still delivering my placenta and sewing me up and cleaning up all that blood mess down there. But I forgot about all of that. I just held my sweet baby boy, and it was one of the best days of my life. And I'm so happy he's here. And I want you guys to meet him officially. This is baby Kobe. Aww. Guess who's here? Isn't he just the most precious thing? I just really love his lips. He got that from me. We made some thank you goodies for the doctors and nurses. And this is him sleeping. And there's my husband sleeping. He acts like he's the one that had the baby. But you know, I'm just kidding. He was there for moral support. And here we have baby Kobe in the car seat to go home. He was so tiny, he did not even fit his newborn clothes. And we're almost caught up on all of these vlogs. We just have Christmas and New Year's to catch up on, and you guys will be all caught up on my crazy, messy, real beautiful life. And hopefully I can continue vlogging and posting here on time. That's my goal for 2022. One of my goals is to stay caught up on uploading these vlogs. And I like to just kind of document them just for, you know, my purpose, honestly, just to kind of see how things are going. Because I do sit here and I watch these vlogs again to kind of reflect back on the memories. But anyways, that's it for my crazy birth story. I'm sure everyone has their own, but that's mine that I wanted to share with you guys. So until next time, always remember to smile because you're beautiful.